All right. Good morning, everyone. It's still morning here. No, actually, it's afternoon. It's 12:47. And I wanted to do this video. As you can see, the title is Justice League, the DCEU, and Marvel Fanboys. It's going to be spicy today. I don't usually just go into people's skins, but I think I might do that today. People were up in arms. They were up in arms about, Zack Snyder's movie, Justice League, and it was a travesty and stuff, all right? Everybody like to bash the DCU. It's my turn to bash. And I'm not going to be nice, okay? I'm not going to be nice. The gloves are off. All right, now first, Psalm 77, verse 10 says, "And I said, this is my infirmity. I will remember the years of the right hand of the Most High. I will remember the works of the Lord. Surely I will remember your works of old. And talk of your doings." This is in this guy's infirmity. He decides to remember, as in Justice League, where there was a remembrance of Superman, as in Suicide Squad, where the guy took up the t-shirt and said, "Remember." So if you haven't seen the last hangout, you should really do so. Shout out to the people viewing this video right now. Much love to you guys. Now I'm about to get a little bit ugly. So if you don't like to see the ugly side of me, please do not watch this video because I'm going to be ugly. So I was on Facebook in a group, a DC group. And this so-called DC fanboy comes up in that group. And he says that Justice League and the DCEU have had cheap cinematography and costume design, just like the CW. And that WB needs to sell off the correctors so we can get a better vision. I was on YouTube. I went up on YouTube and I'm just chilling, going through YouTube. And I see a Marvel fanboy. And this Marvel fanboy is talking about how Black Panther's crushed Justice League and how, the new director for the New God shows that WB doesn't know what the heck they're doing. And that Infinity War just crushed the DCEU. The DCEU is dead. And I'm like, wait a minute, hold up. There are people dedicated and channels dedicated to bashing the DCEU. Hold up. I said, pull the brakes on that. Pull the brakes on that. What am I seeing here? Instead of you spending time enjoying the movies you like, you are back. You don't want me to be bashing Marvel. Yesterday, I had my boy, William Ruffin, pull up. I said, William, we ain't here to bash the MCU. We know that that thing is hanging on a thread. If I just pull something out from under it, it just falls. Right? I'm not trying to bash the MCU, but these people, they're testing me. Y'all are testing me. All right? Because y'all trying to attack Aquaman next. All right? You pitting Infinity War against Aquaman? Really? You really want to go there? So let me just make it abundantly clear now, because I know there's an agenda to crush the DCEU. They want Disney, the mouse, to take over everything. I know the industry is geared towards that. I know what's up. Okay? But let me make it abundantly clear. People like me, single-handedly, will destroy everything if you keep on doing that. I will destroy the entire comic book industry in one stroke. Okay? If you want to see what a real attack is, I'm going to do it. You want to see what real destruction is, I'll show you. Okay? Because the difference between me and you is I come with facts. Do not test me, Marvel fanboys. I'm not your typical DC fanboy. Okay? Marvel, William Rufkin. I got William Rufkin. I got Man of Steel, got answers. I got Samuel Utt. All right. Y'all don't want to start no war. All right. Y'all have thrown shots. Y'all have thrown shots all the time. I don't have to throw shots. I throw one shot, everything falls down. All right? Do not test me. All right? All y'all little fanboys all on YouTube saying all kinds of anti-DC things, you better stop now. If I roll up on YouTube anywhere and y'all keep on talking and running your mouth instead of focusing on Marvel, focus on your product, and you say anything negative from here on in about the DCEU, I will drop a bomb and I will nuke everybody. And it'll be all over. People won't even talk about comic books no more. They will start talking about other movies. And the people who did not want the comic book industry to thrive, they will have their way. I will drop one bomb and I will pull back. And the whole thing will be destroyed. Do not test me. All right? I enjoy comic books. I enjoy Black Panther. I thought it was the best MCU comic book movie. Not enthusiastic about Infinity War, but I could change my mind. But I'm a fair dude. I don't move dirty. I don't move nasty. Y'all have been moving nasty. Y'all have been talking a lot of smack about the DCEU. Y'all have been working in the industry to tear down the DCEU. All right? Y'all have been dirty with it. You try to use rumors and all kinds of crap to tear down the DCEU. That is going to end. And if you test me, I will destroy what you're trying to build in one stroke. Okay? I got people, man, who know their facts. And I got pictures. And I got video. I watch y'all. I watch all of y'all Marvel people. I haven't seen nobody show the entire Thor Ragnarok or showing clippings of Thor Ragnarok all over the internet. I've noticed that. Disney had it on lockdown. They try to hit people with copyright stuff every time. They got their followers see it, and they flag. But I'm telling you now, y'all can't stop me. If you try, I'm going to drop one bomb, and it's going to destroy everything. Do not test me. All right? That's for all them Marvel fanboys out there who posing as DC fanboys as well, who posing as Zack Snyder fans as well. We know what you did. Do not test me. We're talking Justice League and the DCEU, and we're going to talk about some other movies and the DCU upcoming, which are very exciting. By the way, I differ with William Ruffin in one respect, okay? And that is, whereas people say, well, Marvel had a clear-cut endpoint, I believe DC is doing it right, and WB, in that they're giving you the journey, just like how these heroes are going on a journey. Usually, you don't know the endpoint, and you're not doing things in life. It's not about the endpoint. It's about the journey to the endpoint. I think WB is using the right approach in that you don't need to know what the endpoint is. Enjoy the journey. All right? I think they're doing it the wisest way and the sensible way. Now, I invite any Marvel fanboy, roll up on my page. Just remember two things, though. When you roll up on my page and you start disrespecting the DCEU in any way, I will reply. Okay? This is not going to allow, I'm not going to allow Aquaman to suffer. I'm not going to allow Shazam to suffer. I'm not going to allow any other DCEU film to suffer by people attacking these films. I don't attack Marvel. I make it my business because I want the comic book industry to thrive. If I start attacking Marvel, y'all won't have nothing to stand on. Okay? Y'all won't have to shut your mouth and disappear into the dust. And all the people that are fans of Marvel, they'll stop being fans. Because I will destroy Marvel, all right? So don't test me on it, okay? I prefer the DCEU. I don't behave like a hater. I don't behave like an asshole like a lot of you guys out there. I'm a fair dude. I give movies a fair chance. I watch the story. If I have a bias in the beginning, my bias goes away because I give films a chance to tell their stories. It's all about storytelling. And even if I don't like a movie, I can acknowledge if it's a good film or not. So I'm a very fair guy, very fair. This is not just about DC and Marvel. This is about other films too. Any film I watch, I give it a fair shake. I try to always understand what the story is, what's the intention of the director before I critique a film. That's the fundamentals of understanding film. I'm not a superficial guy. So if I start digging into a film, and I haven't done it to any film, I have not done it to any film. The only time I've ever mentioned other films and started digging into them is because somebody said something about those films that wasn't right, and that literally they were putting down another film over those films. That's the only time I ever respond. I am a guy who defends the DCEU. I do not attack any other cinematic universe, and I don't attack other films. I try to make my business now. But if you test me, don't expect me to be a good guy. I will destroy. I will destroy the MCU. I will destroy it. Easy. All right. I warn you guys. I don't make a practice of attacking. Look, man, the last discussion I had on Facebook, those so-called MCU fans, they ran away. Okay, they couldn't respond. Another group, I didn't know exactly everything about the MCU. Those guys educated me a bit on it, but I still stood with what I said. All right, and I have no problem being wrong. So I invite all the Marvel fanboys, not the Marvel fans. Marvel fans, I'm cool with y'all guys. All right, you like your Marvel, you like that. That's your choice. I mean, I'm mad at you. I don't have a problem. I enjoy a Marvel film or two. I enjoy quite a few of them, actually. I enjoy them for what they are. And I don't have a problem with them. But you have to understand something. If you start nitpicking a DCEU film, understand, if I use that same nitpicking on a Marvel film, I won't even get past the stand. All right? Y'all guys are enthusiastic about Infinity War. I am not. That doesn't mean you shouldn't like what you like. But understand this. If you persist in bashing the DCU to promote Infinity War, in one stroke, and I got my arsenal, in one stroke, I can destroy that movie. I'll make all of y'all disinterested in it. Y'all gonna feel like assholes. So please do not test me. I am not one of those guys you want to test. I take the wind out of sails like that. So chill. Okay? They're doing financially well. They're doing well. MCU is doing well. I am so happy for that. That is a good thing. I'm glad that we have a vibrant fan base that supports the MCU. I am happy about all of that. Let's keep it that way. Shall we? All right, that's for the Marvel fanboys. Listen. You don't want to mess with me. You know? I'm not one of those sheep that move in a herd. I'm different. Right? And you can't shut down my channel. And even if you do, I'm gonna come back in a reincarnation and I'm gonna spread the information and it'll be over. All right. So you don't want to play with me. Okay. I'm not one of those guys you want to mess with. When I throw out a warning shot, it's because the next shot coming is to nuke you. Okay. So be careful. I see anything on the internet, anti-DCEU from here on in, I will start dropping my bombs. I'm going to start dropping my bombs hard. Because I rock with the DCEU. You mess with the DC, you mess with me. I rock hard with the DCEU. Okay? All right? I ain't got no beef with the MCU. Don't make me have beef with the MCU now. Shut your damn mouth. Keep your mouth shut with the DCEU. Say nothing about it. MCU is doing well. Stay with your MCU. Talk about the MCU. You start messing with the DCEU, shooters gonna start rocking your ass. Okay? Don't do it. Don't do it. All right? Cool. Justice League. So we got an incredible director who's going to be doing New Gods. I can't wait for that. People talking all kinds of crazy things about, oh, the New Gods gonna have an all-black cast. That would be so cool. There ain't gonna be no all-black cast for the New Gods. It's not happening. All right. You're gonna get the best possible people to do the roles. That's the important thing. All right. That's what acting's about. So it's not about all-black cast and all of that. And come on now. Just chill yourself. All right. You get over Black Panther. Black Panther is Black Panther. All right. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that New Gods is going to be cool, because what New Gods is going to do is going to set up, like we were saying, for later movies. We can establish more about the gods themselves, about Jack Kirby's universe. I think that's a brilliant idea by Warner Brothers. Other people were saying, but man, there ain't going to be no Snyder Cut because the New Gods are coming out. No, actually, that's why we would like to have the Snyder Cut, because the Snyder Cut actually will allude just in a little bit more way, in a little bigger way. It's not going to be all that. I mean, it's just going to be a little bit more to the New Gods. All right. And what Zach, that's another thing I want to discuss, what Zach did on Vero. I don't know if it's Zach or not. I don't know if Zach's bitter. I don't know what's his story. But he was saying that the 3 crosses that you saw in Superman's death, it actually had something to do with Justice League 2. And then he goes on to say, well, there was never going to be a Justice League 2 like that. So they did stop the 2 parts and decided to do 1 part. I don't know really too much more about what Zach was going to do with Justice League. I really don't know. But I can tell you the majority of Justice League is his movie. All right. They took his materials. He basically shot 100% of the principal photography. So, most of it was going to be anyway in the actual film. And I'm sure most of it was. The thing about it is, though, that Zach was going to give you a much more flushed out story if he could have gotten his way and get the runtime he needed. A much more flushed out story, which is what I want to see. Okay. I don't think the movie is significantly different to what we got, but I'm really interested in seeing what he had in mind. And that's my curiosity, not only to that, but I know he was going to give a masterpiece. So I'm very interested in that. I'm also interested in knowing if he's bitter towards WB at this point in time because of what transpired. Because when you look at Iron, Steam Iron, and was it? I can't remember. Snow, Steam, Iron. When you look at Snow, Steam, Iron, it seems as though he's like kind of angry for some reason. I'm not too sure why. And I don't know the specifics of it, but he seems to be a little bit. From that, it seems as though he's jaded or something. I'm not sure. I don't know. I can't verify everything that's on Vero either, because I'm not on Vero. But I would like to say that either way, I appreciated what he brought to the table in the DCEU. He brought a totally different slant to things. I really enjoyed that. And I look forward to seeing him involved in the DCEU in the future and what he has in store for the DCEU. And I do want to see the Snyder Cut. And I will do everything I could possibly can to ensure that that Snyder Cut comes out next year. I don't think it'll come out this year. I don't think so, but I could be wrong. But definitely, I would like to see not just the Snyder Cut. I want a polished Snyder Cut. I don't just want the stuff put out there and it was okay. Yeah, the Snyder. No, I don't want to hear that. I want it polished. I want it proper. So hopefully Zach is working on that. Or hopefully WB is smart enough to put that out. I hope they do. People are saying, well, it would be a different direction to what WB is going for. I don't think so. I don't think so at all. And in addition, it's not in the theater anymore. It's a home release. So it's an optional release. You don't have to watch it. So therefore, I would love to see it. And I don't care what direction it was going in. I want to see it. That's something I think WB needs to put out. And I think they know that and they're aware of it. And they're taking the feedback from the people. And I think they're going to do it. And if they don't do it, oh, man, we need to put more pressure on them until they do it. And we have to keep putting pressure on them because I definitely want to see that Snyder Cut. I don't care if they're moving in a different direction to what that cut was doing. I want to see it. So besides that, and the reason why also I think that cut is necessary is because the music of that cut would have fit in with the music of the trilogy. So mostly the music is what everybody's talking about, really. The music of Danny Elfman fits in with, say, Justice League Unlimited. It is brighter, and that's cool. It's more generic, of course, but it fits in with Justice League Unlimited and that kind of thing, and it sets the DCU in a direction where it was going to go anyway. But it doesn't necessarily. Danny Elfman's score doesn't necessarily close off the trilogy. The score, it's kind of like instead it's saying there's more. So Danny Elfman kind of gives this different slant, almost a different direction, kind of like with the music. Whereas, and he tries to begin kind of like, he tries to do it in a manner in which kind of honors what Zach and Junkie was doing. and tries to take it off in a different direction. But I would say that his problem is that when he tries to do that, it still feels different to what Zack was trying to do, because Zack's trying to tie up loose ends of the trilogy, right? He's trying to tie it up in Justice League. So that's what I wanted to see. He probably wanted a two-part epic, like what Marvel's doing now. But honestly, I don't really care. I mean, all I want to see is this particular cut that he had of Justice League. That's what I want to see. I want to see nothing else. And so once I see that particular cut of Justice League, I don't care about Justice League 2. He didn't have to do with Justice League 2. And I don't care if he did. I want to see what he did now. And I want to see a polished version of that. I don't want to see no, oh, they got footage of it. I don't want to see about footage. I want to see the whole thing finished, the CGI, everything finished. I want a polished product. I want to see Zack complete his vision and give me the completed project. That's what I want to see. So hopefully he's working on that somehow, somewhere. I hope so, at least. I'm yawning. Sorry about that. I'm in my bedroom. I got to go out and work and then come back a couple hours, go back and watch Black Panther with my cousin, hopefully, today. I'm going to call him first just to make sure he's on board with that. But, yeah, so no, I like what the DCEU is doing, but I do want to see the New Gods movie. Definitely want to see that. Do want to see a Cyborg movie, but I'll hold off on that until they maybe even establish the New Gods, even establish the Green Lantern Corps. Even though I can't see Cyborg not being in those movies because he's so pivotal to the boom boxes and the boom tubes and the mother boxes and all that stuff. He's gonna show up in one of those movies anyway. You know, you might be surprised how much he might show up in certain other movies. So I'm looking forward to that as well. Let's talk specifically about Shazam. Shazam is interesting. I mean, let me start talking a little bit about each of these movies you're going to see upcoming, first of all, because I like to talk about them. And by the way, shout out to the fantastic acting by the actor who played Hippolyta. Nielsen. Forgot what her first name is. It's terrible. But she was fantastic in again in the movie, having a pivotal role as Queen Hippolyta in Justice League. And what I like about her is how she gives that gravitas to her character. She gave gravitas to Hippolyta. I mostly remember her from Gladiator, but she's been in a number of other movies. And she always gives this gravitas. And I like that these strong women that we see in all of these movies, there's no male savior type. There's no mansplaining and there's no male savior type there. I like that. So anyway, let me get into a couple other things. First of all, I know some of you probably are in the chat section talking. So let me go see what you guys are saying really quickly. Here we are. R2 Lemonin is up in the chat section. He says, all right, word. He's clapping. I guess is what I'm saying about these Marvel fans or whatever. Look, man, you don't have to be a DC fan solely. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you can be a Marvel fan too. Nothing's wrong with that. I'm just saying to people, look, man, chill, stop that. And then people in the industry, stop bashing the DCEU. All right, stop it. Because if you don't stop it, I will destroy the comic book industry, period, in terms of movies and films. All right, I've never tried to tear down a Marvel film. All right, and anytime I start talking about Marvel films, trust me, when I started talking about Thor Ragnarok and I started defending, you saw how much views I got. You know, some people was like, I was just waiting for somebody to say that. You know what I'm saying? So you don't really want to, Marvel fanboys, you don't really want to pick a fight with somebody who knows the ins and outs of what's a good film and what's not, and can show you that. You just don't want to pick that fight, man. That's not you don't want to do that. Because I will show you. I won't just tell you, I will show you. Right? You want me to be a hater? You don't want me to be a hater, man. Let me be a loving guy. Let me just stay on the loving side. You don't want me to be an asshole. You just don't want it. Dave Ethan, hey. I'm just done working now. I'll be talking to you all when I come home. R2 Lebanon. I hope we get to talk, Dave Ethan. He says, I'm the only one watching this. A guy named Rishba Mukir G says, hi, I love the videos. Keep them coming. DC all the way. And he says, though I do love the MCU too. Hey, man, I'm glad you like the MCU. And I'm glad you like DC. If you like comic book movies, you like William Ruffin. William Ruffin, he loves both DC and Marvel. And nothing's wrong with that. You know what I'm saying? And he basically broke it down like this. He said that Marvel deals with fantasy. Marvel deals with what it is like to be how people fantasize to be a superhero, right? They're trying to get their films more grounded now. DC gives you what it would involve in being a hero. And it's very practical and it's very realistic. So it's just two different approaches. You know what I'm saying? We're going to get some fantasy with Shazam. Let me talk a little bit about Shazam. We're going to get some fantasy with Shazam because it's a little boy. His perspective on the world is different. He had a rough upbringing, but his perspective on the world is still different to an adult. And when you immediately become an adult, you don't have that process. And this is the thing. You know, Shazam is kind of like the movie that will explain what the fans don't get. And that is, Shazam is a movie. The fans were saying, why don't we get Superman? It took me 3 movies. There's a dumb guy on Facebook was saying, after I put a post about, you know, the post that Nicholas Rises I shared with you guys, and I gave him credit for, you know, where Jor-El had shown Superman what the symbol of hope, the symbol of House of El was on his chest. And then Superman himself tears back his shirt like how Jor-El did it. And the guy said, well, it take 3 movies to see the Superman I know. Well, you know, Shazam kind of answers that. If you was to immediately get what you wanted, what would have made you interested in the story? Shazam is that story. This little boy, he has a wish to become Superman, and immediately, boom, he's like Superman. He doesn't have any growth process. He's not developed. So his perception of Superman, his limited perception of Superman is what he has, the fantasy. This is almost a complete look at what you are. Throw a mirror at the face of the fans to say, if you had gotten the Superman just like that, boom, what you wanted, without any growth, without any development, you'd get Shazam. So I'm going to show you what it is you wanted. And you will learn very quickly that now Shazam has to learn to grow into the hero that he's immediately, because he's too small-minded, which is what a lot of these fans are, too small-minded. So Shazam is the answer to these fans saying, oh, why didn't we get this Superman? Retarded, but it is what it is. Sometimes you wonder if people are thinking with their brains or if they're just thinking with their emotions, or I don't know what they're thinking with. But the stupid conversation, and the problem with me, I guess I'm too proud, but I just don't like people who, I'm like Lex Luthor in that respect. If you ever watched Superman 1978, Lex Luthor throws out this question after he is given a brilliant answer, and they say, brilliant! The 2 stooges, the girl and the guy. And so he says, any questions? And he expects them to ask a question on what he just stated, right? And they go off on this crazy tangent. Man, I don't know, man. What is great to eat a sandwich watching that? I'm like, what? So Lex Luthor does like this, puts his head down like this, and then he does like this. That's how I feel with these guys. They come out of left field with some of the dumbest comments you would ever hear. After you just revealed a pearl, these guys treat it like if it's swine, like if it's mud or something. You know, I remember a time I shared an Easter egg of Iron Heights Prison. And it's an Easter egg. Yes, obviously the prison is a place in the DC universe, but it's an Easter egg because you have to look for it. That's what Easter eggs are. It was a brief second in the film. Another guy comes up like a wise ass, and he's like, that's not an Easter egg. That's an actual place in the DC universe. And I look at the dude, because I think he never thought what he never thought it through. Because what happens is when somebody comes with a gem and they present it to you, you didn't know how they got it. They didn't know they were looking for it, they're fishing for it, and then saw this thing that popped up in a blink of an eye, and they froze it on the screen, and they printed it out, and then they share it with you. Nah, it looked like it was just there all the time. Oh yeah, it was there all the time. So the point behind it is people don't appreciate the process to bring something to the table. They get it like spoiled little brats, and they just assess, and they don't think much to assess. There's no thinking really involved. They just blah like a little child. And I'm like, that annoys the shit out of me. You know how annoying that is? You worked so hard, you found all these things, you just realize, oh shit, this was here, this was in the movie. You go and you present that to people, you expect their excitement or something, and they respond like jackasses. And you're like, because they didn't have to go look for it, right? They don't know what the process was. And I get that same feeling, that dismissive feeling, with the DCEU. A director does all this. They do so much work on costuming. The costuming is not novel. You look at another universe's costuming, or all comic book movie costuming, and they're leather, okay? Most of the costumes are leather, okay? It's leather costumes. A lot of leather work, all right? You look at Cyborg, the thing that they were calling CG all the time. Cyborg's CG is a combination of rare metals to make him look alien. And when you see it in the movie, he looks fantastic. And these people are like, that doesn't look like Cyborg. They don't understand the process, the work. The same thing they did with Man of Steel. They just bad talk Man of Steel because it was a fad to bash the DCEU. Now they look back at Man of Steel, understanding the making of it and seeing the behind the scenes stuff and all of that. Now they're like, that's a great movie. I just feel sometimes like, you know, Rick, I forgot what his name is. Rick, it was in Dave Chappelle's script, the guy who said, "A rich bitch," Rick something. I can't remember what his name was. He would just backhand a guy. You know, sometimes I feel like putting that meme in there and just backhanding these fools because they're so dismissive about something, thinking they've seen this before when you haven't. And that's the problem with these guys. When I was watching Batman v Superman and the bat jumped out of the cave and bit Bruce Wayne, and the horror element of that made me jump, that was brilliant. I saw so many things in Batman v Superman you've never seen before on the big screen. And everybody knows Zack Snyder's good at action and what he does. So how can you come and say that the Justice League had cheap action and was petty and stuff? Shut up. So that's my problem with these people. Let me go back to this guy. Let me see if I pronounce your name correctly. Is it Rishab Mukherjee? Is it Rishab Mukherjee? That's your name? I hope so. I hope I'm pronouncing it correct. DC gives us a bit more of the grounded approach, at least the Zack Snyder made ones. I personally like the casting for all the heroes we currently have, especially Batfleck, Cavill, Ezra, and Ray. I also like the guy who's playing Arthur Curry. Just drew a blank again. I can see his face. Aquaman. I like Aquaman. He's great, and I'm looking forward to Aquaman. Jason Momoa. Rishab Mukherjee. Yes, that's your name. Right. Good. Right. Wonderful. Is there any actor you would change in the DCU? Hell no. Nobody. I'll tell you why. Because I have confidence in the casting of the DCEU. See, I enjoy the DCEU because it gives me something I've never seen before in superhero movies. And I'm not one of those people who, first of all, I don't believe in trying to be a casting guy. Like I'm picking out who I think would be best suited for a movie. That's stupid. I'm not qualified to do that. The second thing is I find that Zack Snyder has this keen eye for comics. And then him and Jeff Johns, John Berg, you know, the combination of those guys was just fantastic. So I didn't have a problem with it. And for instance, Aquaman, which is Jason Momoa, he's beginning from a different a different angle. They're coming from a different angle, and you can see he's going to become the Aquaman, you know. But it's all about a growth process. It's kind of like with Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins. That approach has been applied to almost each one of these comic book heroes. They're ever evolving, and I love that. So I like that we have in the DCEU evolving heroes. Gal Gadot is exceptional as Wonder Woman. She's a special sort of person, and she brings that sincerity to the character. She's fantastic as Wonder Woman. I mean, you couldn't get better than that. So, I mean, the casting has been spot on for all of these movies. I thought the story for all of these movies, I've done a discussion with William Ruffin. I hope to get more of you guys on board, R2 Lemonin probably, and some other people, so we can have a much more multi-layered chat and discussion on these things and go even deeper. I always recommend to people Samuel Utton's channel. Samuel Utton's an excellent guy. If you're looking at DCEU stuff and you want to talk substance, he's really fantastic when it comes to that. We also got Man of Steel Answers. Fantastic guy when you're talking about the DCEU. It really will. You're going to learn a lot of things. Can we get a Hangouts link? There is only so much I can say in comments. You want to come into Hangouts right now? I'm about to wrap it up though, but okay, let's do it. I'm gonna get you guys in the Hangouts. Anybody want to come in the Hangouts? It's all good. Just remember, mute your mic on getting in here. Hold on a second. Get the link right there. Sure, man. Here it is. Here's the link, R2. There you go. Yeah, jump on board, man. Love having company. I love talking comic book movies. You know, I really want to read more comic books. Jeff Johns' comic book runs, some of them are just crazy. They're insane. They're edgy and everything. I love what Jeff Johns did. And he even did some of the New 52 as well. So, you know, if you love comic books, you're going to really love these movies because, again, they conform to the comic books quite a lot. They have their own spin on them, but they conform a lot to the comic books. And I really appreciate the actors who have been playing these roles. And once again, a lot of people are attached to Batman. There's a lot of Batman fans because Batman has been in the public eye when it comes to DC quite more than the other characters. But I wouldn't say that Batman is the be-all and end-all of everything. You know what I mean? A lot of people are Batman fans just because by default, Batman has gotten more screen time than everybody else. Shout out to you, R2, man. It's good to see you.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Man, it's been a quick minute. So first of all, I want to hear your response. We were talking about, of course, the topic here is Justice League, the DCU, Marvel fanboys. Now, I'm sure you're a fan of some Marvel movies. Tell me some of the Marvel movies that were your favorite Marvel movies of all time, and they don't have to be in the MCU.
Yeah, well, probably I'm gonna start with Tobey Maguire Spider-Man because that's the Spider-Man I grew up with. That's the Spider-Man I usually think back to, and yeah, there's also something that most some things that there's something about Spider-Man that I have almost talked about in some comment sections that when I was introduced to Spider-Man, I was 9 years old. 9-year-old boy back then, and the Spider-Man I was introduced was in his mid-20s, in college, had a job, lived on his own, as I am myself right now, and so he was seen as a Spider-Man. And it's not exactly something of to hate in the MCU version, but because I was introduced to Spider-Man when he was an adult. It's kind of hard to say to separate that he's a minor, and there's that. I sometimes find myself calling him a Spider Boy.
Well, he's still growing into Spider-Man, I guess.
Yeah,
they mostly kind of attach him to the Avengers for now, so I think that's exactly. You know, yeah. Well, how about Blade, man? How about Blade?
Yeah,
Blade
was good at the time I watched it. It hasn't been. I had to watch it as of lately, but I suppose but it's probably as good as it was then, and maybe it hasn't aged as well as some commentaries and recent reviews about it have said, but it's still a good movie.
Right. Do you know any other Marvel movies? There are a couple of Marvel movies which are pretty good. Of course,
X-Men.
Star Wars, X. Oh my God, X-Men. X-Men revolutionized the game.
Oh yeah, it sure did.
Yeah, that's the first ensemble superhero movie that really did well at the box office.
Yeah, it is. I haven't.
Yeah, they're like the X-Men were like the edgy Justice League or edgy Marvel superheroes. They were on the edge of it, you know. Really, I mean, if you I don't know if you were there for X-Men when it came out. That thing blew up the box office, man. It revolutionized everything.
I was probably in the 4th to 6th grade when the first X-Men movie came out. So I wasn't in the paying audience at the time. I later had it in home medias, and actually I saw the second X-Men movie first, then the first, then Last Stand, and then every other movie that came after it.
Last Stand was people didn't like Last Stand because Wolverine killed Phoenix. I loved it. It was so unpredictable. He just and he went, ah! I loved it, man. I was cracking up in this cinema. Everybody was watching me like, what's wrong with you, man? I was like, yes, he did it. I didn't think he would. He went there. It was good. It was good. So yeah, I mean, I also like, of course, my favorite MCU movie was Captain America: The First Avenger. That was my favorite. It's Black Panther now, hands down. Black Panther is my favorite MCU movie of all time. But Captain America: The First Avenger, I argue with anybody, and they say, "Oh, Red Skull wasn't a great villain." Well, which Marvel movie has had a great villain since then? I mean, so I think Red Skull is their best villain so far. I mean, in Thor Ragnarok, they say Hela was better, but I don't think so. I think Red Skull was the best. You know, I mean, it's my opinion. You may say, well, nah, you think Hela's better than him.
I can't really say as of yet. I haven't watched that yet. I haven't found out from a streaming service or Netflix or any other movie streaming service that I'm going to watch it.
Yeah, well, you ain't missing much.
But I did say Black Panther when it came out.
Black Panther's dope. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not even trying to front. It's dope. But and it does make me think twice about Infinity War. Even though I've watched the trailers of Infinity War, I'm still not impressed by it. But it does look good. It looks okay. I'm not into that really. I guess. But you never know. Maybe the movie's great. Maybe it has messages that are just fantastic and meaningful. So you never know. I mean, I'm open to it. I'm not like one of those people who just bash a movie. And I don't bash movies, generally speaking. But if these Marvel fanboys get in my skin, I'll start bashing some movies and they will not like it. So, but yeah. I was to ask, why I asked that is because I find that sometimes directors as of late have not been taking the kind of risk that I saw with these older movies. Sam Raimi's Spider-Man today might be considered by some fans as too depressing and even, dare I say, too dark. But that's what made the movie so great back then. It was even though it didn't have as realistic a world, it looked more comic booky, the world. They literally kind of did it as if it was off of cartoons, more caricature looking. It was still very much grounded in the realism of consequence, right?
Yeah, that's true. And then there's the case of the villains, for example, the Dr. Octopus, as for example, that was pretty straight level.
That was Superman too, Octopus and the Sandman. Yeah, the first one was Green Goblin.
Yeah, Green Goblin, yeah. That also where he had the green costume and the one set and the mask, which one had the face. Right. Some people have been saying it's ridiculous, but
I liked it.
But consider yourself in a situation where you're the victim and you're approached by the Green Goblin, like I guess time with that guy. we saw when he first appeared in the costume, he killed that was the board of his company on the building. That he was throwing bombs. And obviously he was. So he was not afraid to kill people. He was
Oh no,
basically
the
he was
mean,
killing people. He would have if they had probably he would have made sure killing people left and right. But then imagine that you're alone and the guy you have seen in the TV killing people in front of you and mask. Do you laugh at the mask because you think it's ridiculous, or you think, oh shit, that's the guy who killed all those people?
You know, you're gonna say, "Oh shit, that's the guy who." It doesn't matter how ridiculous he looks, you know. And he did look like a caricature. He kind of reminded us of the Power Rangers guy, but he reminded me of a warped, devious Power Ranger looking guy. He was just like so twisted in his mind. And even when you saw him, when he started to have split personality in front of the mirror, and he started to transform, and you see the guy in the mirror talking back to him, it's freaky as ever. You know, it's kind of spooky. And I love that. And they were saying, well, you should have taken off the mask more. I was like, no, man, that's the mask reminds me. It reminds me of a colorful version of Saw. You have ever seen Saw? It's kind of there's this very, even though the world looks bright and kind of cartoony, there's this weird feeling you have inside that there's something wrong with it. You know, like something's wrong. You see Green Goblin, you're like, oh my God, something's just wrong with that guy. Something's just mentally wrong. This does look like Power Rangers, but something's just wrong here. You get that really weird feeling inside, like, you know, when you feel kind of if you watch a horror movie, there are certain scenes that just make you feel sick inside. You kind of feel very, oh my God, this is just very unpleasant. That's the feeling I got when I saw him show up. He's familiar to me. I've seen him. I've seen these Power Ranger-like looking figures, but he doesn't behave like the villains of Power Rangers. The villains of Power Rangers, you don't feel like there's consequence behind them. They feel kind of light. They're bad guys. They go, ha ha ha. This guy, he's killing people, and he's doing it in a very nasty way.
Yeah, that's also a psychological element in that. Consider that you see something familiar that's supposed to be happy and something else, and then it's the exact opposite. For example, the Mad Hatter, the Batman villain Mad Hatter, he's a character from Alice in Wonderland, and that's a kid's book. Then imagine living in Gotham, and there's a criminal who dresses up and calls himself the Mad Hatter.
That's exactly it. It's like a clown. Generally speaking, clowns are funny, right? And then you see the Joker, or you see it, and you're seeing the clown at first, but you just look at it, and something's just wrong with that clown, right? It's smiling, but he's creepy, right? And that's the feeling I had with Green Goblin. He was moving around, and everything he did reminded me of a witch for some reason. I don't know why. It reminded me of a witch, and just the long nose and the smile. He had this fixed, plasticky smile that really just creeped me out. So, and especially if it's a kid watching that, I can just imagine how creeped out they feel, because it's familiar, but yet at the same time, something's wrong with it. So that's what I liked about it, actually. William Dafoe did excellently, as far as I'm concerned, with the Green Goblin. A lot of people are saying, you know, he looked too Power Ranger-y, too campy. It looked campy, but the movie itself was not campy at all.
Yeah, just because something looks like something doesn't mean it automatically is that something.
Exactly, and that's what I like about Spider-Man. And it is one of my favorite Marvel films. I also like Blade. I also like, I told you, Captain America: The First Avenger. There's X-Men, of course, and I like also Winter Soldier is cool, but I never really thought of it as better than Captain America: The First Avenger. And to me, progressively, the Captain America films kind of got watered down instead of built up. So I felt like the story was great for that first story, and they did so much in that first story, because Captain had to grow up. He had all these attributes, but he had to learn to work with a team. And I felt like his whole development, his whole story arc was beautiful. And then he ends up in our time. I loved that part where you thought he was dead, and then you realize, oh snap, he got frozen, you know, and then you realize, oh wow, he's in a totally different era now. How's he going to respond to that? So I loved all of that growth that happened in that movie, and I'm hoping that they will do something with Captain America to make him grow, because he hasn't grown since then. He's basically been the same since that point in time. So I've never really seen much story arc from him. So so most of his films, other people have grown up. I know Iron Man has grown up a little bit, but when it comes to Cap, he hasn't grown up much. So that's the thing, and he's one of my favorite. Yeah.
There's something I don't think it's if it is close to when we're talking about Cap, but there's also that fact that with Civil War, but which was supposed to be a Captain America movie, and that then turned into an Avengers movie, that there's this one thing that I find something that is kind of like nobody talks about it, or if they talk about it, I don't know if they talk about it enough. And I brought it on one stream's comment section, but I was probably not able to impress it properly. So at the end of the movie of Civil War, where they were at Siberia, remember that?
Yeah.
There was that point, where Cap, Iron Man, and Bucky, they were there.
Yep.
And Captain America said, "I come in peace," and then he called Bucky a Manchurian candidate. It was a reference to a Meryl Streep movie where soldiers had their free will taken away for combat situations so they could be more efficient, and they didn't remember that afterwards. So he acknowledges that Bucky had been brainwashed, and we had seen earlier in the movie that he has literal trigger phrases in his head that anyone who knows them can pull and manipulate him.
Right. That was in Winter Soldier.
Yeah. Then there's the Sola. He shows the footage of how Bucky had been used as Winter Soldier, and then and as if given the Starks that point. Then let's see how now think about it. Iron Man and Tony Stark, he had acknowledged that Bucky had been used, brainwashed, put there and down. That's basically like I need visual aid. So let's imagine this Nerf gun is Bucky.
Right.
Bucky. It's armed right there. So I'm Hydra. This gun is Bucky.
Right.
And let's say something off screen is this are the stars. So I'm me, Hydra. I pulled the trigger. I pointed the gun, and Iron Man thinks this gun was used to kill my parents. I must destroy it and ignore the people who used it. Horrible weapons manufacturer, and he doesn't know the difference between guns and gunmen.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Well, you remember Tony Stark is a very impulsive kind of guy, so he feels first before he thinks sometimes. And I think that's what happened there, really, to be honest with you.
But it's still that there's something close to that. I don't know if this is correct, but like a Parkinson's disease, that he literally forgets something that he vocally acknowledged the two people not 5 minutes earlier.
But the thing about Tony is he's not really the best person to go for decision making. Obviously, he made a poor decision by signing the Accords, not thinking about the fact that Hydra just infiltrated a government the film before, which is Winter Soldier. So I don't think Tony thinks things all the way through. I think Cap's much more level-headed. And so it's not really necessarily far from the character to behave the way he did, just like how it wasn't far from Batman to pull up when Superman says, "Save Martha," you know, it wasn't, it was perfectly in the character. It was built up and stuff, but it's just that I think people, when you're partisan, and some people, that's what I was telling you about Marvel fanboys. I have to scold them because they need to stop that trying to bash the DC, especially at this point in time in the game. because both movies have merits in them. I know there are plot holes in Captain America Civil War, but basically Tony Stark is an impulsive person, so I didn't really have a problem too much with it. I mean, if Tony was a guy that was reflective, he's not really. And you could see Tony's very impatient. Even when you looked at the airport scene where he's talking to Cap, he's trying to get Cap on his side, and he's saying, you know, you did a stupid thing, Cap. How could you, you know, have this lady I was trying to protect? Because he can only see his point of view, right, Tony? And then he turns around and he says, man, come on, join me, join me. He's trying to get Cap to join him. He doesn't even wait. Cap just pauses for a second because the Black Widow says to him, you know, Tony, you sure you want to make this kind of move? And Tony just pauses a second, and Tony Stark is like, Underoos! He can't even wait. He's like, you know what? Screw that.
Yeah, cool.
Tony's that kind of guy. He doesn't think things all the way through, which is why when people say Tony's smarter than Bruce Wayne, I'm looking at them like, are you serious? Tony's too impulsive. Bruce would wipe the floor with him. Bruce is a strategist. He's all about, you know, Batman is a dude that's weird. He is. The nice thing about Batman, you know, we like to talk about Batman a lot, and I like to talk about Batman because there's a lot of things about Batman that's very, very paradoxical. He's probably not a superhero when you stop and think about it. Batman straddles the line between right and wrong. He straddles that line. Almost everything Batman does with criminals is illegal. Think about it.
Yeah, that's why they had the criminals one in BVS.
He's just completely illegal. I don't care which iteration of Batman you look at. Batman does everything. He could never be a cop. He would be charged with excessive force over and over again. You know that 1990s incident that happened with Rodney King? I could easily see Batman doing something like that. Batman's that kind of dude. So Batman's a scary character in that respect. He's not all there. He's not all there mentally. Batman's not all there mentally. He doesn't have all the screws.
But his mentality is mostly if we're talking about comics and how he still get level-headed over there, that's mostly thanks to his family. That's thanks to Robin, Nightwing, Batgirl, Batwing, Red Robin, all those characters. That because they are the ones who have been there. And Tim Drake originally became Robin in the first place, so Batman wouldn't become this. Exactly.
Right. Exactly. That's right. Dick Grayson was keeping him in line. Tim Drake kept Batman in line a lot because he realized.
Yeah. And after Jason Todd died, Batman went pretty much what we saw in BVS.
Yeah, Death in the Family. Batman went bat crazy. Everything's bat. Everything with Batman is bat. He's crazy, obviously. But so that's the thing with Batman. And so that's why, you know, I think that Tony Stark's a fantastic character in the sense that we see this hero who is full of himself. We've never really seen that on the screen, I think, until Iron Man. And then he comes straight out and he says, I am Tony Starks. Yes, I am Iron Man.
Yeah.
You know, never seen that before. Superheroes generally keep their identities secret. So I think that's the fun part of Tony Stark. He does not have patience. He's a guy who is very inventive. He has a problem with morality at certain points in time. So these are the fun things about Tony Stark that make the character interesting for a lot of people. And then they got a pretty good actor, a pretty appropriate actor to play Tony Stark. And so I think that worked out for them. But I think that when you're talking about the MCU and also Marvel movies, if you go and you read some Marvel comics, the comics are, I mean, man, the comics can be very intense. They can be pretty intense.
Era. When it comes to comics and Marvel in particular, I have been following Diversity and Comics YouTube channel where he has been pretty much reviewing and roasting the Marvel comics. And
well, I started reading one or two, but you know, Conan the Barbarian is a Marvel comic as well. If you look at Marvel comics, they're pretty graphic. Some of them are pretty graphic, and I think I haven't gone and watched the Netflix version of the Marvel TV shows, but I heard they're pretty graphic themselves.
yeah, the last one I watched was Luke Cage. I haven't watched that Iron Fist because it got bad rap, and then there was the Defenders because that would have been continued from Iron Fist, and Punisher for some reason also not, because that would have been continuation on Daredevil, which would have been also continued from his perspective from the Defenders, and then there's Jessica Jones, which one of the latest reviews I read about it said something about it going against men for some reason.
Okay, but I heard that I haven't seen any. The Netflix special with the Punisher and stuff is pretty good. So that's the direction Marvel. But DC has always been. People don't know DC started off. But DC's much older than Marvel, right? So DC started off with darkish characters. Superman was kind of dark, but he was still kind of light, and Batman was very, very dark. And so people say DC characters are lighter than Marvel characters. I don't agree with that per se. But I will say this, that if you're going to read some of Jeff Johns' runs, you know, I was reading just recently their Flash, Iron Heights. That stuff is graphic, man. Dude be slashing. There was a dude that was slashing the neck of a woman, and the police came in. He was about to slash another neck of another person, and that's how he got apprehended. He went to prison. Flash put him in prison and stuff, and it's just very extreme. And so I don't know. See, I don't know how much comics people actually read. I think what happened is because of some TV shows like the CW, like Christopher Reeve's 1978 Superman, like Wonder Woman series with Linda Carter. I think people think that DC has these light superheroes. And then, of course, we had Adam West's Batman, right? So DC has come across as light, but the comics themselves have not really been light comics. There was a period in time when the comics were kind of light, and we had the Super Friends also animated, which was much lighter. But, you know, DC's been up and down. They've been light sometimes, they've been dark and so on. So I think that's the thing. I think when Batman was rebooted in 1989 with Tim Burton, you got this dark Batman, very dark Batman. Never seen nothing like that. In fact, in all superhero movies, we haven't seen any superhero movie that dark. And so I think those are the things that kind of set the trend, you know. And even to this day, if you think about it, think about all the Batman movies you've seen. I think Tim Burton's 1989 Batman is the darkest of them so far in terms of killing people and killing, and even 1992 Batman is even more dark because they're these
burn guy alive at the afterburn of the Batmobile, throw the guy to a sewer with a bomb strapped to him. I actually have I have the
woman gets thrown off of a roof and all kinds of crazy crap going on there. Yeah.
There's actually also I have the 1992 Batman Returns as a special edition DVD, and I have watched the commentaries. There was something like Tim Burton defended his decision in making Batman like that. That something like quote, this is something like I remember him saying that they lived in a darker times and they couldn't have just Batman and pull a net on the criminals and have it left hanging on the front of the city hall. Something like that, he said.
Well, we didn't see that on screen, but that would have been crazy. Yeah, and 1989 was, it wasn't as politically correct as today. Today's it's kind of ridiculous in some respects, but you couldn't do that today. He didn't get through it in 19. Have you ever seen RoboCop?
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty extreme, right? Because people get killed left, right, and center in that movie, and those are the kinds of, and it was kind of funny too, And my point being that those were dark movies, and they, what we see, even BVS Batman, he's not as dark as people think he is, but he was kind of dark. They try to get the music to sound dark, or something's wrong with Batman, but that's not dark. People, as Zack Snyder said, I mean, come on now. This dark is like you rape a woman, you chop off her head, and then you walk around with her head and you eating her ear or something like that. That's kind of like dark.
Yeah, that's something more must say.
You know what I mean? They don't know about, like, so I listen to people because I think people have been exposed to comic book movies that dilute down the consequence behind an action with a hero. So you see a lot of destruction, but there's no consequence to it. Whereas in Man of Steel, you were looking at destruction and it reminds you of 9/11. And Zach made a point of making it look like 9/11. And so that perturbed people. So people were like, people dying in that city, and Superman didn't save them. And like, it has nothing to do with Superman. Can't save them. What is he going to do?
Yeah,
you know,
there's a Zero. There was Zod. There was a lot of multiple factors. And those people are pretty much like Superman was alone in there, and he was like,
exactly. You saw with the man, I'm not gonna lie, some of that stuff was disturbing. Where you saw the world engines lifting and you hear people screaming, ah! You're seeing pieces of building coming up in the air and then it slams down. I'm like, oh my God. And you seen the cars and everything. Zach was pretty graphic with that stuff. So I could think that immediately jogs my mind. I think about 9/11 immediately. And so, but that was the world engine. It was destroying things. Planes were crashing into buildings. Buildings were falling down. That was what was happening. That had nothing to do with Superman. He was over in the Indian Ocean trying to stop that world engine from doing that. Yeah. So a lot of the destruction that happened was because of the world engines, of course. And but the other thing is, you know, Zach made it very, very realistic. So you felt like these were two gods fighting in the sky. And if two gods are fighting in the sky, man, if two gods are fighting in the sky, that's what happens, you know. And then they were talking about people dying in buildings when Zod's throwing Superman through the buildings. You think anybody died in those buildings?
It was something I came across about that. There was probably in the Wayne Financial Building, which we saw in the opening BBS. Then there was the Planet, which was so in the Man of Steel. But it's probably more understandable that once Black Zero emerged and started the terraforming, in our people who had a lot of sense in them, they decided to leave.
Right.
Well, probably not everyone, but I think Daily Planet stood because they're journalists. It's their job to stay and record what happened, and so people will have a better picture of what happened in the next day. As for the what?
We know for a fact that some people died because of Superman and Zod in a building. That was Wayne Enterprises building. The guy who was the head of Wayne Enterprises, he was in the building when Superman crashed the building and Zod cut the building in half with his laser vision.
Yeah, that was one of
pretty much killed a bunch of people in that building. Even though a lot of people escaped because, again, they evacuated. A lot of people evacuated the buildings and were trying to leave the area, right? Yeah. So, but obviously you're going to have some collateral damage. You're going to have some casualties. Some people die. And from what I heard, Bruce Wayne said about 4,000 people died, which is about the same number that happened when the World Trade Center building fell. So it's really crazy that's Zach was really definitely talking about 9/11. And what's interesting about that is that, of course, those 4,000 people that died didn't just die from Superman and Zod fighting. It was mostly from the world engine that was slamming things up and down.
Yeah, those were the first ones.
Yeah. But at the same time, I mean, you're watching Superman get pitched, you know, sometimes he gets thrown, Zod throws him somewhere, and you see all the people ducking inside of the streets as Superman kind of crashes through some buildings and stuff. It's crazy, man. And I was thinking, you know, I've seen these stuff in animated films where Superman and company is fighting some guy like Darkseid or whoever in the streets of a city. And you see people around. Yeah, you see people around. You never really think.
Justice League Unlimited. So finale where he fought Darkseid. Then there was that one from the previous year where he fought Shazam.
Actually, and you forget there's all these people in the city.
So at that point of Justice League Unlimited, There's been so much about people have been saying that Henry Cavill's Superman is a dopey douche who doesn't save people, and then they look and admire the Superman in Justice League Unlimited who was pre 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 just pre,
Yeah, he was basically involved in these big altercations, smashing through buildings and stuff. Apparently, he didn't care about people, because you're smashing through buildings and smashing other guys through buildings, people could die. Nobody thinks about that. And I find that very interesting. That people are so hypercritical about, but I think it was just the nature of how that movie was like 9/11 so much. It reminded people in an unpleasant way about, the violence that happened in 9/11. I think mostly that's what kind of had people reacting that way. But quite frankly, I enjoyed the crap out of that movie because of that. The fact that he actually drew from 9/11 and put it in that movie just totally made me happy. I was very uncomfortable watching BVS, especially Lex Luthor. I hate Lex Luthor. That character is very annoying, and I did not like him. But when I saw the explosion and I had a respect for him, I was like afraid of him, yet I did not like him. And I really enjoyed that Zack Snyder made the villain unlikable. Most people strive to make a likable villain, or a villain you can understand their point of view. Zack Snyder made a point of making sure the villain, you did not like him. And that was the brilliant performance. I enjoyed of Batman v Superman. So much I want to unpack with Batman v Superman I haven't actually told people about yet. There's a lot going on in that movie. There's a commentary. If you go and you watch the movie again, there's actually a commentary on the state of affairs when it comes to how we view other countries. So one of the things Zach's statement is how, for instance, we are the rest of the world. Okay, I'm from Trinidad. You're from Europe, right? Right. So in a way, how we view the world is different to how, say, somebody in America might view the world, somebody in China. And I like how he actually gave this big, broad picture where he's showing somebody in Nairobi, Africa, how they view the world. Then he shows you somebody from the United States of America, how they view the world. Then he shows you someone who is from, say, what was the other place? There's a number of different countries that were kind of put up in the collage, right? You saw Superman somewhere up in the North Pole. You saw Superman somewhere in Russia. And so it was a Russian rocket that he saved.
Oh yeah, that was the Russian rocket, yeah. And then the burning building where he said that girl on the day of the dead, that
right,
was
Mexico, right.
Or Mexico somewhere.
Right.
Yeah, Day of the Dead in Mexico. That was.
Yeah. So I like those little points of view, and even in Justice League we have that as well, where we have the different points of views from different people from the different parts of the world, and I find that's beautiful because again, Zack Snyder is trying to give you a global perspective of Superman, and not the typical propaganda that you would have associated with Superman. You know, people say it's truth, justice, and the American way. Well, they decided to kind of scrub off the American part and not just keep Superman, even though he does allude to him being from Kansas. He's as American as it gets. But he even so, Superman, they try to give it a global perspective instead. Same thing with Wonder Woman, actually. So I like those kinds of things where he's actually Zach's kind of including other countries of the world, you know, Bangkok, Thailand, and Latvia, in near to Russia, you know, all these countries that probably wouldn't get any sort of press or any kind of, now people look at them and they think about them because of this movie. So I like those kinds of things, you know.
Yeah, that's usually a great reaction from those countries. For example, every time Finland is mentioned in somewhere in a foreign media, TV shows or somewhere, there used to be this whole thing where someone posts on Facebook or somewhere social media that I'm saying this in Finnish now. Suomi mainittuna torilla tavataan, which is Finland is mentioned. Let's break at the market.
There you go. You know what I'm saying? And Finland is also, and what I like about it is he also acknowledges the fact that there's this global community. You know, there's a lot of anti-globalism now, and the irony of the situation is we live in a global world. We live in a global village. So how could you be anti-global? Like, what's the chances of somebody from Trinidad and somebody from Finland talking to each other if we weren't global? So it's kind of paradoxical when somebody says, no, don't have globalization. I'm like, that's not possible. We already have the internet. It's over. Forget that. That's not possible. You know, because you can't push nationalism. You could, I mean, you can be a nationalist. You could love your country, but you can't push nationalism and isolationism in a global community. It's not going to work anymore. It's not happening. So I find that Zach, his movies, and the other thing about his movies I like on the movies of the DCEU is they go beyond the DCEU, and they actually have websites where you can go find Gotham, you can go find where Batman lives. You could go look at Brainiac. You know, there was this little website when we had Suicide Squad. You could go up on that website, check out Suicide Squad. You go up on the website, look at things for Man of Steel, and the websites are still out there, right? And I like that they use the internet to sort of make it more interactive. And the only thing I would say is somehow if the DCEU or any one of these movie people could get so that just like how we have video games where you have alternative endings, how you can make your movies and sort of, okay, in the theater, there's one particular ending, right? You can't vary that. But when you get the home release, they can make it interactive where you pick what ending you want based on a choice in the movie. So there's a certain point in the movie where you can choose what kind of ending you want to see. And based on the decision-making of the character. So if they can make movies a little bit more interactive, especially with the home release.
Video about that subject on there was on the Dave Cullen show. He had a video about that. About Dave Cullen show.
Yeah,
he
and
had
you
a
don't
video about that subject about the interactive movies and alternate endings.
Exactly, because then now the director, because we know directors shoot multiple endings for a movie, right? And they have to pick which one they're going to end up with in the theater. So instead of throwing away those stuff and having them as deleted scenes or whatever, or they're in the cutting room floor, why not let the person viewing the movie make a decision for the character, choose a decision for the character, and they get an ending. And then if they didn't like that, then they can choose another decision and they have another ending, you know? And that makes it even more rewatchable.
Probably, or in the worst case scenario, it causes the studio bosses to order reshoots.
There you go. But you don't need to do reshoots because most times you're catering for different outcomes in your movie. It's very fluid. So I'm saying more than likely, it's by the time you see all the different options, it's kind of like the Telltale series. It's kind of like what you do with Telltale series. You could do for movies, and just the movies now will have such higher production and just greater cinematography that you enjoy going. That's if you're a person like me, especially me. For people like me, we like different. We don't really like the same kind of thing over and over again, the same kind of story, etc. So for me, I would look at all the options. Actually, I would go through all the endings. And even the most brutal ones, or even the ones that are like, you're like at the end of it, you're like, what the F? What the hell is that ending? I like all that stuff, you know.
Actually, quite surprisingly with the second season on the Telltale Batman series. Like there's this option of that you can turn the Joker into an ally instead of the arch nemesis. And then in the first season, there was you could have saved Harvey Dent from ever becoming Two-Face. His face wouldn't need to be scarred, and he wouldn't need to be thrown into Arkham.
There you go. So it's all these kinds of weird decisions that make these things interesting. So I don't know if Warner Brothers is thinking about that or going in that direction. I don't know if they have money for that, but that makes the movies even that much more interesting. And so if Warner Brothers doesn't do it, I hope somebody does it. It'll be cool. Of course, you and I, we want to see a crossover between these movies, even if it's something with Transformers or Power Rangers. Sometimes the franchises that are struggling, maybe if they like with Spider-Man, Sony had a problem with Spider-Man, and they meshed together with the MCU, and they got Spider-Man to work. And similarly, if one of these franchises, maybe Transformers or whatever, fuses with a studio that's doing relatively well, whether it's Fox, Marvel, or it's Universal, or it's DC, you somehow do a crossover. And if that works, then you keep pushing the franchise that you have, and then you can now spin back off onto your own universe or your franchise, whatever you're doing, and get the ball rolling that way. Because that's what they did with Spider-Man. Basically, there's going to be a Spider-Man universe, right, with all the rogues and all that stuff. But they jump-started it using the MCU, which I thought was pretty smart on their part. So I mean, I understood the inventive direction they went, away from the typical Spider-Man tragedy story with this reboot. We'll see how it goes, but in the end, I think that these are the kinds of things we need in comic book movies. Justice League was one in which I really appreciated the experiment between trying to sort of they basically tried to get the direction, which was lighter, which everybody was moving in that direction anyway, but they decided to move it into the lighter direction with sort of a more direct approach than what Zach was doing. Zach was trying to give you a nice full approach towards the sunlight. They decided, okay, what we do, we just abridge that. We cut this down, cut this down, cut this down, cut this down, so that we could stay focused on the direction we're going. Because the next set of movies, we want to make sure that they show us the age of heroes, and they still link us to the thing that we were trying to highlight, which is Superman. So I think that's what they just kind of cut all the other stuff out, and they said, oh, all right, let's just keep it, let's keep the story moving, keep it moving. And then they got to the end, and they said, all right, good. So now Superman is established. Everybody's starting to get established into their direction. So when we see Aquaman, we know he's going in that direction. They try to cut down what Zach was doing. I mean, personally, I didn't have a problem too much with what they gave us, but it is what it is. One more thing I want to ask you, and you can talk at length about this one. We're going to go into the chat section. Is in terms of the DCEU's direction and where they're going, how do you feel? Do you feel comfortable with that? Confident about it? What do you think about the director that's announced for New Gods? What do you think about the directors that are announced for The Flash? What do you think about the director who is doing Aquaman? What do you think about Wonder Woman movie coming out next year, and also the actress is going to play Cheetah? What do you think about all of these things? Let's talk about the current DCEU slate and what's coming up.
What do you want me to answer first?
Anyone you want to start with.
Okay, first of all, I'm glad about the Wonder Woman news and about the cheetah thing. I got to say that at last time I was in the stream with you like this. I said that I wanted cheetah to be in the sequel, and Kirsten Wiig was not the first choice I had, but when DC Rebirth comic line started, I read the Wonder Woman comics that Greg Rucka was writing, and
right.
there it was. As the comic, it was bi-monthly. It showed up to the present and the first year of Wonder Woman,
right.
And it also highlighted her friendship with Barbara and Minerva before she became Cheetah, and as she was Cheetah,
right?
And how that relationship was done. That's something that if they are trying to recreate that or make their own version of that, that is something I was really looking forward to seeing, and knowing that they are going forward to see that. That's great. Also, the artwork on how Barbara and Minerva was drawn pre-Cheetah and maybe post-Cheetah. She was, spoilers, she was cured from the Cheetah curse in the art, and then curse again. But her human form, that it did really resemble something that Kirsten Wiig could be turned into, or with or the correct hairstyle, the body fit, the build, wardrobe. They could turn Kirsten Wiig into a believable Barbara and before she turns into Cheetah.
I think that seeing that I've seen a lot of comedians go into serious roles, Kirsten Wiig is now one of many. We had Nicolas Cage, we had Michael Keaton, we had a bunch of them, and I think that to see their dramatic side of things will be very, very interesting. I would like to see. I mean, if Patty Jenkins is so excited to get Kirsten Wiig, she probably knows a lot more about Kirsten Wiig's her resume. So I would love to see what Kirsten Wiig could bring to the table. Obviously, Kirsten Wiig auditioned and she won the role. So I want to see what their take on Cheetah. You know, we saw at the end of Justice League an artifact. I think that Cheetah again generally would be holding on to. So Nirvana's stuff, I think it is. So I wouldn't be surprised that that artifact has something to do maybe with something that we want to see, which is in the past, which would have been in Wonder Woman's past. So I'm very interested to see how they approach this and what Cheetah has to do with anything. And you're saying it's probably the Greg Rucka run they'll go with?
Yeah, and I just had an idea. If they do that, there's the rumor about the movie was on that it would take place in the 80s, but
right.
Maybe only part of it takes place in the 80s. Maybe Diana meets Barbara Ann in the 80s, and she's turned into Cheetah. She's Cheetah all those years until present, and some of the actions that happened then come back to haunt her then.
Ooh.
That's something that they could use from the Greg Rucka run.
Interesting, very interesting. And I think they want to tentatively call it the Magic Hour, so that should be interesting. So I would love to see it because I know it's a period film. It's going to be the 80s. Another period film with Patty Jenkins. I wonder how they're going to approach it, what they're going to actually do. We know Wonder Woman has a certain sort of characteristics to her. So I would like to see how Cheetah plays into that. I would like to see what the other characters in this movie will be and what exactly is the scenario. They're saying somewhere in the Cold War era. So that should be interesting. I would like to know if there's, what kind of covert operation Wonder Woman ends up being in, how she influences people, because a lot of Wonder Woman is her characteristics, who she is, and how she helped people, what kind of people she lost in the process of leading out, because she said some things to Bruce Wayne saying that, when you're a leader and it's your fault that other people die, they're like Steve Trevor. So I'm very curious to see how all that stuff plays out into what she is saying, or if this has anything to do with that, or if the film actually picks up after Justice League, but there's a lot of flashbacks to the past. So there's a lot you making me think about when I think about these films. I don't know where they're going to go. So we just have to wait and see what the director has in mind and what they're planning to do. But I am very much excited for that Wonder Woman sequel. Well, I don't know if it's a sequel, whatever it is, prequel, whatever it is.
In between, it's also something that if only part of it takes place in the 80s and another part takes place in the present day, it's probably helps them in the part that there's some that the Justice League has happened already, and I think at least for us and the viewing audience that there's the thing that if it takes place already in the 80s, then it's already spoiled that Diana survives through it and something like that.
Yeah.
But if the threat or conflict carries from that in particular time era to the present day, then it's pretty understandable why it jumps back and forth.
Right. Right. So I'm looking forward to that. Also, as you said, that Shazam is another movie. There's Wonder Woman. There's Aquaman. That's the movie I'm anticipating because it's a totally different world to what we're used to. and I can't wait for the director to James Wan to really fully show us what that involves, because it's a totally different world. People are saying Star Wars underwater. That sounds cool, but I don't think so. Okay, there's two reasons why it's not Star Wars underwater. First of all, Star Wars is in a vacuum, so it's a lot of space, just empty space, right? This is waves and sea and currents and wave pressure.
There was the G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra movie that came out a couple of years ago.
Right.
In that movie, the Cobra's base was underwater, and they had something like of a of a final battle that involved submarines fighting underwater, and some of them were shot, and they were shot down in the water like it was in the space or somewhere in the air. That CGI was laughing with that. I remember watching it with my friends and laughing at it.
Yeah. That's funky as it can be. But I think that this is going to be different. I just looking at how they create the images underwater and how the hair and just how the light moves underwater is really awesome. Seeing, you know, when you see when the mother box is shaking, the water is actually shaking with it and stuff like that. And then to see Mira actually move the water, like she just separated the water and it just blew back. And she just clapped her hands together and the water came back together. It's really sick. And it feels natural. So I'm looking forward to really just seeing what is Atlantis? What does Atlantis really look like? You know?
Yeah. Then there's also the issue of Black Manta.
Yeah, then there's going to be Black Manta underneath there somewhere. So I'm very curious, because that world, you know, first of all, just seeing the little bit that we saw of the world with the coral, and you can see the columns of the place, you knew that it was once land and now it's sea, and you're seeing all the coral growing up on everything. So it looks like it's undersea. Just to see the city enveloped in coral and all that kind of stuff, and animals moving, and animals kind of living in unison with Atlanteans. I don't know what to say. That's going to be very interesting. That's all I can say. I would like to know how they also got underwater. Like they were airless, how they became, you know, how they learned to breathe underwater, or did they learn to breathe underwater, or did the god Poseidon give them something?
Poseidon did something, or
yeah,
probably also no, that's
both.
Not.
Yeah, or Triton. Yeah, I'm still curious to find out, and they're very strong. And they have armies and stuff. I'm really interested in seeing how that all pans out. And to see them fight these sea creatures is going to be, it's going to be crazy. Because, you know, the animals in the sea are huge. And some of them are very creepy looking and dangerous and stuff. So I would just love to see that stuff. And how they pull it off. I would love to see that. That's kind of like Jason and what was it called? You remember that old classic Jason and the Titans, is it? Jason and the something.
Clash of the Titans, or
Clash of the Titans, I think it was called, or Jason and the something. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, I remember that.
That CGI is...
I don't remember the Clash of the Titans, the original classic movie, and yeah, the guys were dicks in it.
Yeah, in its day, it was a great movie. It was like great CG and everything. Well, not CG, special effects. Nowadays, it's like, what is that? But you know, those kinds of epics, I hope it's something like that James Wan is able to pull off, because this is something this is going to be historic. This is something that we've never seen before on the screen ever. People living underwater and conducting life and everything exclusively underwater. They're not really air breathers. So I'd love to see that, and just see how they pull it off. No air bubbles. I hope they don't put no big air bubble like what happened in Justice League. But other than that, should be interesting. Very interesting. You know? For Wonder Woman until I saw the first trailer.
You froze for a minute.
Huh?
You froze for a minute. The screen froze for a minute.
Oh, sorry. I was asking you if you're excited for Aquaman, or you're just kind of like, yeah, okay.
Oh yeah, you know already. I told you already in one stream about my gym membership. And Arthur, pretty much the same name.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. He's got the same name as you.
Yeah,
That's
also,
true.
I've been thinking about getting some kind of actually some kind of tattoos over the years. Some later this year, something like that. Two weapons of two King Arthurs. Arthur's
Wow.
the trident for Arthur Curry and the Excalibur for Arthur Pendragon.
Okay. Two kings. All right. I hope you don't make it permanent though. Don't tattoo. Well, that's up to you. You can do whatever you want. But yeah, two Arthurs, man. Arthur Curry, I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do and what will happen in that movie. I don't really know what the story is and everything, and I like that.
Yeah.
What do you think of Shazam? Shazam next year. What do you think of the outfit, the costuming, that kind of thing?
Yeah, they probably didn't use Michael Wilkinson to design it or create it, but probably that's a good thing because Superman costume was made from Krypton, Batman's costume was made by Batman himself, and so forth. That got the costume that Shazam uses is supposed to be created from magic and a child's imagination. So, of course, that costume that looks different from the previous ones.
Right. So it's a little bit different in terms of colors, but I can't really say because I have to see the final product to really know what's really going on with his costume, his costuming. But yeah, he does have he's more of a child, a child's perception of the world and superheroes. So I guess it's going to be a little bit different in that respect. Yeah, but I'm looking forward to Shazam. I like how they're playing up these little kids, Freddy and all the whole gang, and then they're all adopted and stuff. So I'm pretty interested in seeing how that story plays out. They say it's going to be something like the movie Big. So I'm interested to see that. And then, of course, the New Gods. What do you think of this new director for the New Gods?
Well, that's still pretty fresh news that we got just on Friday. So far, I don't have a positive or negative view about it, but the director is someone who just made that one Wrinkle in Time. I haven't seen it yet. I did go to the movies on Friday, but I didn't want to see Tomb Raider because that's Tomb Raider. But probably the Wrinkle in Time that they have been saying this and that about it, but it was probably maybe it was good. But there are also some other movies like. Hold on, I'll check her.
Ava DuVernay. She's directed.
IMDb page.
She's the one that directed A Wrinkle in Time.
Yeah, that just came out.
Yeah. She also directed Selma. Selma was good.
Okay. Need to produce. I'm on the IMDb page. It says producer. Or did it?
No, she directed Selma. She directed Selma.
Okay, IMDb is probably finding about that. Okay, this is one occasion where Wikipedia is more trustworthy than IMDb.
And she did A Wrinkle in Time. A Wrinkle in Time. I haven't seen it yet with Oprah Winfrey. We'll see how that goes. That came out today. Today it came out. This weekend it came out, so we'll see how that works out. And she's doing okay. She's doing reasonably okay.
August.
She's known as a award-winning director, so I think I can't remember which movie it was that she got an award for.
Awards and nominations honors 2012 variety features dominated women back then, not that one. Honored women.
I think she did for Middle of Nowhere. She got an award for that. Middle of Nowhere.
Middle of Nowhere. Independent feature film written and directed by her, starting this and that and that, and I can't pronounce those with these speech patterns. Blah, 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 blah. It film was the winner of the directing award for U.S. dramatic film at 2012 Sundance Film Festival.
Yeah, there you go. So that's what she's known for. I think she's done some television as well. So at the end of the day, she's a good director for sure.
Yeah.
And I remember her congratulating Patty Jenkins on Wonder Woman. So yeah. She's probably happy she's getting her hands on the New Gods.
Yeah, that's storyline. Okay, Go Story written by Kari Salem, who had seen about this guy's work. Composer and matter of music for soundtrack. There's no soundtracks for this and that.
But she's considered a very good director. So it's going to be the second. Warner Brothers is now going to make history. They're going to have the second woman director directing a movie that's going to be over $100 million. Yeah. So Brothers is again doing some history breaking once again. They continue to do that stuff, and that's good. And hopefully the New Gods route would give us a nice full background into not just the New Gods, but also how that relates to, say, the Kryptonians, how it relates to the old gods. Instead of maybe, I don't know if they're still going with the Green Lantern Corps, but if they're not doing the Green Lantern Corps, at least the New Gods gives you a wider, more universal perspective on things. So it may even, again, I think they're going to be doing a lot of evolution of characters. So we'll kind of know how, we'll get some sort of perspective on Darkseid and how he came to be, how he is, and that kind of stuff, as well as we'll get perspective on probably High Father, Granny Goodness, Orion, the whole 9 yards. So it should be interesting how we get now. We go deeper into Jack Kirby's New Gods, and that you get to know how these gods came to be and that kind of stuff. So hopefully they fill in the gaps there as well. So that should be interesting. So I'm looking forward to all of that. They're really expanding the universe outwards. Of course, the movie I'm really looking forward to is Flashpoint. They got the directors who did Spider-Man Homecoming. They're the ones that just recently did Game Night, I think it is. Game Night came out, did okay. So they're the ones directing Flashpoint. They have been known to do more comedy-driven stuff. So I don't know how I feel about that, except I think Warner Bros. Must know what they're doing. So if these are the directors they're going with for Flashpoint, fine. Let's just see where they go with it.
Yeah. It's something I need to say myself, that it could probably still be Flashpoint in name only, or maybe as a working title. Because from the news about some things about again, those might be rumors and not really things, but it could just be a flash story. It might not be the whole alternate timeline. I think it could be just a Flash movie.
I hope they do Flashpoint though, because I'm assuming that Flash is going to move on to break the time-space barrier at some point, and why not try to get him there in Flashpoint? Yeah. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, or that could happen also, or there's something else actually that as Flashpoint is already something that we know from the comic, from the animated movie, and the atrocious.
But they don't necessarily have to go the direction.
It could also be, the Flashpoint could also be played as if it has already happened, and there could be like ripples from it shown in the movie. somewhere in the world for that. The Flash has already created something like that, and he's supposedly okay. No, that's probably not going to happen if the Flash is that young at this point still.
And he's still growing, so you want to see when he actually breaks the time space barrier. You want to see that happen. But what's nice about Flashpoint is we still get to learn a lot about the Flash and his background and how he came to be in that movie. So it's to me, it's a good movie because what happens is when he finally breaks the time space barrier, the world changes, and so that's what we're looking forward to. Once he breaks that time space barrier, he's in some other dimension, he's in some other place, which means now he can actually affect the timeline. So that's where it's good, especially. I don't know if we should do Flashpoint before New Gods or after New Gods. More than likely, it's going to be after. So that kind of help to shape everything. And so the scene we saw in BVS and was supposed to be alluded to in Justice League, but it was cut. We can actually see maybe more of that scene somehow in Flashpoint, or if not that scene, some other scene in Flashpoint. And that's the thing that I hope happens, because the only thing left for the Flash to do is run fast enough to break the time space barrier, which I think at the end of Justice League he did, but I'm not too sure. So I think that's the natural progression for things. Flashpoint, I think, is important to be able to deal with stories that are not directly connected to the DCEU universe that we are in at present. So that, like, for instance, if they want to do a Joker movie, but the Joker movie is kind of independent of Earth Zero or Earth Prime, then they can very simply do that because we've had Flashpoint, and we know there's other universes out there, other dimensions.
Yeah, 52 plus the hyper time.
Yeah, so that's why I'm looking forward to that more than anything else. Even though I like the fact that we're dealing with all these other movies, and I'm definitely going to watch all of them. The movie I really care about the most is Cyborg, but that ain't coming anytime soon, and that's a very hard movie to do. I think it's a very hard movie to do at this present point in time, because Cyborg can evolve into just about anything. And the other point about Cyborg is he doesn't necessarily he's not always going to be a hero or a good guy. He may go to the bad side very easily because of just the way how he's developing, and there's this grid with him. So I'm very interested in seeing, and he's not in fully control of himself either. He's not in full control of himself. So Cyborg could easily flip the other way, and I'm looking forward to seeing all of that. I don't know if they can be able to do all those things in one Cyborg movie, but you know, Cyborg has a lot of potential. So if they take the time to make a Cyborg movie, I'm happy. That's my favorite DC character, by the way. That's my favorite. It's not Superman, it's not Batman, it's not Wonder Woman, it's Cyborg. Not even Aquaman. Aquaman's fun to really read comics. The Aquaman comics are really good these days. But yeah, Cyborg,
that's true.
Cyborg's just the concept of Cyborg blows my mind all the time. And it's kind of scary to think about Cyborg because, I mean, the world's heading in that direction. You know, we're getting all of these artificial prosthetics. We got all these we're relying on a lot of artificial intelligence and a lot of artificial stuff. You know, we're really fusing with technology in a way that's very soon you will not be able to, you rely so much on it that, you know, we have endoskeletons now for lifting heavy objects and stuff. We are able to, in medicine now, create artificial eyes for people so they can actually see images. We are able to actually interface with a human being and get their limbs to move. So they have these things now that can connect me to another guy, and whatever I think, that other guy will actually do in a limited way, but still, like blink. If I think to blink, the other guy will blink. If I think to lift my hand, the other guy can lift his hand. He will lift his hand. There's that kind of weird stuff going on in science. So, you know, when you think about that, you ask yourself, well, where do we draw the line between, we can clone things, we can do all kinds of stuff now. Where do we draw the line where technology is not allowed to overshadow the humanity of a person? and that's the issue that Cyborg presents. He's got most of his body, 90-something% of his body is technology. It's this alien technology. He's only got like a small portion of his body, part of his face and his brain is human.
Yeah,
That's scary.
There was the
That's like you're encapsulated up.
Yeah, you know, in the Forever Evil comics that came out in the 2004, 2013, 2014, the Forever Evil comic where they brought in Crime Syndicate. So they didn't have an equal version of Cyborg, so they had that image happen where a sentient computer virus that the Owlman's Alfred, who had been in the mainstream DC Earth at the time, had installed a sentient computer virus called Grid into the Justice League's existence. It had then infected Cyborg, and then when it took control of him, it practically separated the flesh from the augmentations, and we were shown how little there was of it. Victor himself only survived pretty much because Batman and Catwoman, who were the only ones who survived from the Crime Syndicate's attack against the 3 Justice Leagues that were at the scene, and got him to the Star Labs to his father.
Right. Yes, I know that storyline with the Grid. But actually, the Grid was infected by the virus. I think it was.
Yeah, the Grid was the virus.
What Cyborg depends on the Grid, though. He depends on the
yeah, something no.
The virus.
Yeah. Cyborg himself created the Grid, and the outsider, the Earth 3 Alfred, did something to it.
Yeah.
Corrupted it and turned it into a sentient virus.
Yeah. Because the Grid. What happened was the Grid was trying to prevent. It was actually trying to prevent getting infected again, and so it took initiative. So what happens is eventually we had a separation of the Grid from Cyborg for the first time. It was pretty cool too, you know. So you know, that's the thing about Cyborg. He's not one sentient being. He's 2. And that's what we saw actually in Justice League, where his defense system kicked in and he had no control over it because it just started firing a shot at Superman. So he doesn't have full control over himself, and he doesn't even know why he modifies every single day. And like you said, he hears alien voices in his head, you know. So he shares the space with another sentient being that's in him that came from the mother boxes. So it's kind of scary. But the thing about it is, when you have apocalyptic technology and apocalyptic life force inside of you, it will be scary. And that's the other thing. Superman. The other thing about Superman is Superman also has apocalyptic life force in him. So, you know, he doesn't necessarily have to be good all the time. So these are the 2 things I saw that they seeded inside of Justice League, and it can lead off in one direction where Cyborg could actually be evil for a minute. Superman could be evil, really evil for a minute. And it's because as much as Batman and they took the risk, they didn't really think the thing all the way through. And Superman actually has the potential to be manipulated. And so does Cyborg. Yeah. So it really does lead to some interesting things that could happen in Justice League later on, or whatever movie where these characters show up again. Yeah. You know. Yeah. Well, it was good talking with you, man. It's now 2:41 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time where I live. You are probably 5 hours ahead of me, which means
8:41 p.m.
8:41 p.m. So you're you're 6 hours. You're 6 hours ahead of me. Wow. Well, I wish you a good night, and hope everything's going well over there in Finland. And from Trinidad, this is me. Tell people where they can contact you or they can see your work. Just give them the.
Probably create an actual YouTube channel over the summer.
Okay. Also, you can tell them about the website they can go to. The name of the website is Traveler Among Wizards.
It's no, that was the name of the fan fiction. It's
right. So they can check out your fan fiction on Traveler Among Wizards and tell them exactly where.
Yeah, fanfiction.net. The Traveler Among Wizards is the my version of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, where the young Superman, the young Clark Kent, is pretty much the same age as Harry Potter and Ron Weasley and Hermione Granger. It tells the story of the Deathly Hallows with Clark Kent with them, and
Cool.
then there's the B story with a 0-year Batman, a Zatanna, and the Justice Society of America.
Nice, nice. So you do a lot of crossover movies and crossover stories. Let them so they know now. This is R2 Lemonin. He does a whole bunch of crossover stories, and I will try to feature 1 or 2 of them on my channel in time. Cornell Comer. Hey, Anson. Hey, Cornell. I hope everything's good with you. Shout out to you. I know you went and checked out Black Panther. You love Black Panther and you love Wonder Woman. You don't have to tell me that twice. I know. I did also check out Black Panther, Cornell, and I'm going to see it again this afternoon. So shout out to you, my brother. And for me, I obviously can find me here on YouTube. I have 2 channels. One is Christ and Disciple. The other one is What You Need. What You Need does boxing. Christ and Disciple discuss movies and all kinds of things concerning Christ, Jesus, God, right? So that's what we do. On that note, I hope everybody enjoys this video. We just wanted to discuss, I wanted to talk about, especially comic book movies, because, you know, comic book movies are pretty cool. And no matter what persuasion you have of comic book movies, one of the things that are enjoyable about these movies is that sometimes they can give you values and stuff that you can apply in your everyday life. Corner Cobra says, stay on the music. Yes, I'm always on the music, brother. You can always check my channel, see what I've done. All of them are rough drafts. They're not completed work. They're just ideas thrown out there. But you can always check out my channel for more music. I know you're probably doing some music on SoundClick. Corner Comer, by the way, he's a musician, and he does his thing on soundclick.com. If you want to, Cornel, you can also put in the chat section your link, and I'll give you a shout out right here on this channel right now. But other than that, this is all I got to say. Again, Marvel fanboys, please be responsible. If you're going to say something, say it backed up by facts. Stop trying to bash something that you're not really involved in. For the DC, also fanboys, stop bashing Marvel. We're not into the bashing business. We deal in peace. We're happy that they're comic book movies. If you like DC comic book movies so far, great. If you like Marvel comic book movies or you like both of them, great. But let's stop with the bashing now. Since Wonder Woman, we should have been peaceable with each other. And everybody's entitled to their opinion. But if you guys continue to bash films and bash movies because you're just picking one side, or you feel this other side might do better than your side or whatever, then what you're really saying is that you're not really a true comic book fan. You're a partisan guy who's going down a certain line. I'm not going to encourage that anymore, especially with these upcoming movies. R2 Lemonin, Cornel Comer, Rishab Mukherjee, and who else we got? We got a couple other people. Dave, Ethan, and who else is the other person? Wow, I can't even see everything anymore. And whoever else was here, there were a couple more of you that were here and gave some shout outs, but I can't see all the way up the chat anymore. All of you guys, I want to wish you a good evening. God bless. Have a good one. All right, R2. Have a good one, man.
Yeah.